All right. So part two, we're back after lunch. We were talking about the different stocks. Where's my clicker? Here it is. All right. So you're going to create one large one, one small one, and how creative you are with your stock is going to benefit you financially or it will hurt you financially. That's why we're doing these company proposals and a rough draft. I just want to make sure that you're not, violating a copyright or a trademark or using a word or a company that might be school inappropriate. 99% of you, you're going to turn in your proposal. I'm going to look at it, check. You're going to get a 20 out of 20 for doing that, and everything's going to be fine. If your logo right now is not what you think it's going to be when you're done with your stock, that's okay, as long as I have a general idea of where you're going with it and there's nothing inappropriate. So some sample stocks. The other one, this one it was in the video the other day, and this isn't particularly pleasing to the eye, but I could see that this gal put so much effort into individually cutting out all of these little letters, and it kind of went with the theme of what her business was. It was like a used resale clothing shop, kind of like a Goodwill or a St. Vinny's. And so having that kind of ragtag bits and pieces sort of stock theme was appropriate. And so even though it wasn't something like perfectly computer generated like this one, I still appreciated the fact that this person put a lot of time and effort into making her shares. You can use a computer if you have a color printer at home, or if you don't, putting some color into it or laminating it is totally optional. You can put as much effort into this as you possibly can, but there's no real restriction as far as must use color or you have to use color. I'm not saying that you have to do that. If you have computer skills and you want to computer generate your stocks, by all means, go ahead and do that. I mentioned three-dimensional stocks. This kid did a restaurant. He used a little tiny plastic wine glass, those little ceremonial ones, and I probably should have said no to the fact that it was a wine glass, but I let him do it, and it kind of backfired on us. Nobody really wanted to hold on to his stock because they had to hold on to his stock. They couldn't just put it in an envelope with all the rest of their stocks. So having 3D stocks might impress your classmates, but it might also upset your classmates as well if they have to lug them around. This one, the person actually Googled what an old stock certificate looks like and just photoshopped the words in Dirty Dave's Zoo, which kind of sounds like a child molester. But it was a zoo. A kid started a zoo. So the stocks don't have to be universal. Like they don't have to. Your stocks don't have to be identical to each of the rest of your stocks. This gal, Katie, she made all of her 25 shares a different shape, like a clock or a muffin or a coffee. And she had a coffee shop bakery sort of combo. This gets to the idea that you're going to make 25 that are one size, and they will say one share, and then you're going to make one that's going to say 25 share. And the reason we do that is we don't want anybody to make mistakes and on accident sell their 25 shares. The reason why I did that, because people were mistakenly selling their 25 share in the frenzy of IPO day. And so you always have to keep the 25 share. You can't sell that. I always like talking about this young man, Adam. He's the one that I said was a straight C student. So it doesn't matter if you're a C student or an A student. I've had A students do terrible on the simulation. I've had C students win the simulation. Adam was one case. And I said, I emphasized, try to pick a business with some sort of theme or topic that you really are motivated by, you enjoy. Maybe you don't think a pet shop is profitable in real life, but if you want to do a pet shop because you like pets, then do a pet shop. And Adam really liked working on cars. And so he did Adam's performance or Boat's performance engines. And he actually brought in a piece of an engine. He did a demonstration in class. He had this like uniform. He had some homemade. You know how these guys that work at the auto repair shops have their name on a patch, you know, and like with a blue shirt. He had one of those, and everybody was just like, "Oh my gosh, he put a lot of time and effort into this." It was really cool, super cool. And he ended up coming in first place in his class. And I think I always tell the story. There was a classmate of his who is now a doctor, who was a straight A student, who came in like 15th, like in the middle of the class. And so it doesn't really matter. It's just how much you want to put effort into this, how much you want to make of this. You can make homemade stacks. Here's some homemade ones. The shape can be any shape: triangles, circles, rectangles, odd shapes, anything that you want to do. You can have frilly ribbons and stuff on it if you want to. Here's another example of a computer-generated one where the singles are smaller than the 25, which is a little bit bigger. Here's another example. This kid Cody did some three-dimensional stacks, blocks of wood. Again, it makes it difficult to lug those around. But it's IPO day in this picture. This is back when this is Petrosky's room as my classroom, probably 8 or 10 years ago. And so this is IPO day. They're literally negotiating how much you want to sell your stock for. And so there'll be a negotiating process. I'm going to go through that with you next week at some point on how you're going to negotiate. I want you to be shrewd negotiators. I don't want you to give away your money. There'll be a handshake at the end, kind of like signing a contract, right? So Olivia's going to sell 2 of her shares to Mason for $50 each, $100 total. Do we agree? Yes. Handshake. At the moment of handshake, it's a deal. You can't back out on that person. All right. At the moment of handshake, anything up to handshake, you can back out on that deal. But I'll tell you more about that stuff a little bit later on. And you're going to keep a transaction record. So she's going to sell 2 shares for $50 each to Mason. Mason's going to give her $100. She's going to write down Mason, name of his company, yes, and minus, she's going to have plus 100. He's going to have the same thing, but it's going to be minus 100. And so there'll be a running transaction record of how much money you should have at any given time. So if I walk up to Mason at any time in the simulation and say, Mason, let me see your transaction record. And if the bottom of his transaction record says he should have $750, then I count his cash, he should have exactly $750, all right? That's going to be one of the hardest parts of this whole thing, not the work involved. It's going to be keeping a good record of your transactions and making sure everything's accurate. I've actually had kids with tears in their eyes because they have some sort of mistake in their transaction record and they're missing 5 Roscoe bucks, all right? And so we got to figure out where that $5 went. Did you miswrite something? Did you literally lose $5, drop it on the ground and somebody picked it up? We're going to talk about honesty issues a little bit later on. So here's some of Cody's stacks, the blocks of wood there. Again, it's within the rules. You can do this, but I don't recommend it. This is Raven's brother, Drake Lewandowski, and he made all different shapes and sizes, his scary monsters there. This kid had a record shop and literally took DVDs or CDs, whatever we called them back in the day, and just kind of traced these circular shaped stacks. This is the story I was telling you. You guys are a business, and being a business owner, as long as you're getting the job done, it doesn't matter how you get the job done. So if Mason doesn't want to stand in front of his class and he wants to pay somebody to do his presentation, he's allowed to do that. That's within the rules. If he doesn't have any artistic ability, you can't use that as an excuse with Mr. P. Josh can't say, well, Mr. P, my stock sucks so bad because I don't have any artistic ability. Then I'd say, well, then Josh, it's your job to find somebody who does. I don't care if it's your mom. I don't care if it's your friend. I don't care if it's a professional artist. But somehow get those stocks made and bring those to class. Colby Tyler, I always pick on his brother, older brother Mitch. Does anybody know Mitch? Okay, so Mitch, when he did this, and you're gonna see a picture of him a little bit later on, and he did this, Mrs. Tyler, you guys know Mrs. Tyler? All right, she's really artistic and does arts and crafts and so forth. She did all his posters and his flyers and his presentation. She did it, and it's within the rules. It's okay. So he had some really great investments, but he's just asked mom to do them all for him. And as long as you get them done, you don't have to physically and mentally do them yourself. But as the business owner, you got to make sure these things get done. Okay? Laminate. If you can get Miss Kane to laminate your stocks, more power to you. She'll be really busy the week leading up to IPO day. If you have your own laminator and you see this as an opportunity to make some money, you can say, hey, anybody who wants their stocks laminated, give them to me and give me 10 Roscoe bucks and I'll laminate them and bring them back to you tomorrow. All right? Or whatever. Coffee from McDonald's. You know, whatever business transaction you want to make with somebody, you can do that. They don't have to be laminated. I said a lot of people will do it because it looks nice and it protects them and so on and so forth. This is kind of an interesting one. Katrina, she graduated about 10 or 12 years ago. She did a photography studio, and one of her investments was she brought in this neat backdrop. She hung it up on the wall, and all the seniors that we had in class, she did like a senior photo and then printed them out on this really nice photo paper, and she brought the seniors all a senior picture. Claudia, she has probably one of my favorite stocks of all time. She had a comic book cafe, and each one of her stocks was a different superhero from DC, Batman, Superman, you know, Green Arrow, and all those different characters from the DC universe. So these are decent stocks, but these aren't the ones that are going to jump out at you. All right, these are, hey, I made these stocks. It probably took me about an hour at home. I put some color into them, but you know, they aren't perfectly cut. You know, this isn't a perfect rectangle. You know, this looks handwritten. Handwriting is okay, but you know, you're just going to look at that and you're going to go, okay, that's average. All right, and if you're okay with average, that's okay. All right, that's okay with me. But that's probably not going to earn you a cash bonus for the wow factor of making some really cool stocks. You're not going to lose any money. You're not going to get punished for this. You would get punished for this. And this is what's going to happen. In every section of econ, I always have one or two that do this. And it's usually this. They're coming in, the bell hasn't rung yet, they're walking in, and they look up, and they see everybody in class has their stocks out. And they're like, oh crap, it's IPO day, I forgot my stocks. You can't come up to Mr. P and say, Mr. P, I forgot my stocks, can I bring them in tomorrow? My answer is going to be no, because IPO day isn't waiting for you. We're having IPO day today. Right? Your classmates have the most money today. You're going to maximize your wealth today. You bring your stocks tomorrow, they're going to have spent most of their money. They're going to have invested most of their money. All right? And they're going to have very little for you tomorrow, the next day. It's possible, but it's even, I hesitate to say this, it's better for you financially to take 10 quick minutes and handwrite a bunch of stocks and sell them on IPO day, albeit they're crappy stocks, then try to make some really nice ones a day late and show up a day later. You're not going to make as much money. Trust me on this. All right? So it's so important. Now, if you're one of those people that say, hey, I got a doctor appointment on IPO day next Tuesday. I can't be here. And what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to find somebody in class who you trust, who will be able to sell your stocks for you on IPO day. All right? I would urge you to reward that person, because it's going to be crazy for them trying to buy and sell their own stocks by themselves. You add yours in it, and it's possible, they can do it, all right? But that person is going to be very, very busy that day, all right? And the possibility of a mistake being made, commingling your stuff and their stuff, their stocks, your cash, their cash, it's very difficult, but possible, all right? So I would rather you have somebody running your company on any given day than not. even though that you're putting a burden on that person. So have some arrangements ahead of time where, hey, if I'm ever absent, will you cover my company? If you're absent, I'll cover your company for you. And my phone, my email, all the ways to contact Mr. P or your classmates exist, right? Unless you are literally in a hospital bed somewhere, everybody should have the ability to contact me or a classmate to make sure that your company is being managed and run every day. Because when I do attendance, when I call out Aiden's name and he doesn't answer here and he's absent, the very next question I'm going to ask to the class is, Aiden's not here, who's running Aiden's company? And then somebody's hand should go up. Avery says, I'm running Aiden's company. And I'm like, okay, check, he's okay. All right, if I don't get somebody running the company for you that day, then you're going to see the next day when you come back, your stock will have gone down because you didn't have somebody managing your company. So I have a lot of these what not to do stocks. These are all last minute throw togethers. Some of them are not bad, like she at least used pink paper. This kid I always laugh at because he wrote snowboards at an angle as if that was going to help everything. That's going to fix everything. I'm going to write that as my angle. No, you've got lines on this paper. I mean, this is literally the worst thing that you can do. So these are all examples of last minute. You don't want to make Mr. P's PowerPoint slideshow next year because what I do is I take the best ones and I add it to the slideshow, and I take the worst ones and I add it to the slideshow. And so I've had brothers and sisters, younger brothers and sisters, see their brothers and sisters' good stocks and bad things up here as well. Again, very average. These aren't horrible, but it's like, could you at least have found something round and traced a round basketball instead of trying to handwrite that? Here's one of the trademark violations. So you guys don't know of this company, but about 15 years ago, there used to be a motel chain called Knights Inn. And they were one of the cheap competitors with Motel 6. And they had they were located through the Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. And it's Knights with a K, like, a medieval knight. And so this kid, Ben, his company was Knights Come In. So he just added that one word, and he was thinking, okay, that's not a trademark violation. Yes, it is a trademark violation. You can't be close. Did I give you the Jackson example already? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jackson thought TSPN was going to be okay, and I had to tell him no TSPN, because it's too close to ESPN, all right? So you got to be careful, all right? The reason why we do proposals is to make sure that you're not walking up to that line of school appropriateness and stepping over it, all right? Whether it be inappropriate sort of business, whether it be something that might be, yeah, like this one is implying. Hold on here, let me pause the video.
I was like, alarm.
Okay, so you get the idea. I don't need to really harp on this point too much, but that's why I do the company proposal, to make sure that you're not stepping over the line of school appropriateness. So you're going to get 500 Roscoe bucks, and this is where my little honesty spiel comes in. Has anybody ever seen me lose my temper in a class before? Okay, I've been known to throw a few things against the wall and tip over desks and even cut myself on accident, all right? But most of the time it's very regrettable. But the most mad I've ever been in my 29-year career teaching is when I caught a kid cheating, stealing money from his classmates. That just really, really sets me off. We have to be honest, all right? Because you can't help yourself from the dishonest behavior, but you can hurt your classmates. That's the worst kind of dishonest behavior, because your money always has to match. I can't go up to Mason and, while he's not looking, steal 50 Roscoe bucks and put it and add it into my money, because I have to show in my transaction record where I got that 50 bucks. I can't write down stole money from Mason, all right, because we're going to be auditing and looking at that stuff. So, and you can't just make up a transaction out of thin air, because there's always a paper trail. So if he says, I got that 50 from Aiden, Aiden's transaction record should show that he gave him 50 bucks. There's always a paper trail. So you can never benefit from your dishonest behavior, but you can hurt people, because now he's $50 off, all right? And maybe all I did was I took his 50 and I just threw it in the garbage, all right? I can't benefit from my dishonest behavior, but I can hurt people. That's the worst kind of dishonest behavior, to be honest with you, is your dishonest behavior in harming the competition, the simulation, the fairness, the ability for your classmates to earn a good grade, to do well in this, because your dishonest behavior. I don't want to get that angry with you because of your dishonest behavior. So there's my spiel about dishonesty and honesty. Don't touch other people's money. Don't touch other people's stock. We want to be able to, on IPO day, if Mason wants to make his home base this desk and leave his stocks and his cash here while he goes back to Avery and says, Avery, you want to negotiate? Let's do a stock deal. And he's sitting here with Avery. He wants to be comfortable enough that nobody's going to take his stuff. Otherwise, it's going to slow everything down if you have to lug all this stuff around over here. All right, now I am going to ask that you get an envelope or some sort of notebook binder where your stocks and your cash won't fall out. We will talk about that a little bit later on, but it's so important that we are able to trust our classmates. I want you to almost treat it like real money. Don't don't just flippantly leave it around. Always double when you're counting out cash. Make sure that whether it's probably not good to wet your thumbs like we do, but to make sure that, hey, I'm not giving them 250s when I thought I was giving them 150. Always count your cash, whether you're giving it to somebody or receiving it. Always double check to make sure that what we said we were going to exchange is what we're actually exchanging. Okay, so everybody is going to start with 50 shares of stock and $500 in Roscoe bucks at the beginning of IPO day. At the beginning of IPO day, you're all equal. Within minutes of IPO day starting, you're going to be unequal, because the minute that one person sells their stock for $80 a share and another person sells their stock for $30 a share, they're going to be unequal, all right? And so at that point, you guys are all going to diverge. Some people are going to float to the top and some people are going to float to the bottom. And you might be doing a great job, but you still might be doing on the bottom because everybody else is doing a better job than you. And this is why the bottom grade that you can get in the competition is a B-. I'm gonna have you get out your packet here, and I want you to flip to this page. Page 5, everybody. You see where it says example block 5. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take your entire portfolio value, and we're going to do these updates about every 2 days. And you're going to fill out a portfolio sheet, and it's going to show how much stock you own of this person, how much stock you own of that person, all the way down, how much cash do I have, add that all up, and it's going to give you a final portfolio value. Somebody's going to be at the top, somebody's going to be at the bottom. And then I'm going to take these little brackets, and I'm going to find these reasonable break-off points. It's not always like the top 4 are an A and the next 4 are A-. It's kind of groupings. I just kind of look at groupings. And so you'll see that some of the groupings are 4 people, some of them are 3 people, some of them might just be 2 people. But I take the groupings and I basically say the top is A, the next group is A-, the next group is B+, the next group is B, and the last group is B-. This is 25% of your grade. The other 75% of your grade doesn't have anything to do with the competition. Right? The competition is more about pride and 25% of your grade. All right? So who's going to be in first place, who's going to be in last place? That's a pride issue. All right? The other 75% of your grade is going to be participation, neatness, and accuracy. 25%, 25%, 25%. So neatness is one of those things where, Mr. P, I don't really have great handwriting. Well, then you're going to be typing a lot of stuff. all right? Or you're gonna have a transaction record, and then you're gonna go home and have your older sister who has nice handwriting rewrite your transaction record for you. So neatness is 25% of your grade. Accuracy is 25% of your grade. And simple class participation is the last 25% of your grade. And that's gonna make up 100%, which is, again, about 40% of your entire grade for the fourth marking period. All right, even though the fourth marking period just started, it's gonna be a little bit shorter than the other because Mr. Ewald tacked on an extra week for the third marking period. Plus, we have testing week that's going to dip into this. So before we know it, we're going to be at the end of April, beginning May, in our home stretch. Do we have any seniors in here? The seniors are going to go bye-bye about halfway through May, and this class is going to be nearly over. And so it's going to be happening in a blink of an eye. So, we do have testing week coming up next week, and what I want you to do is, if we are not meeting on a particular day, and I know that schedule's a little bit confusing, all right? I know most of you are juniors and you're going to be testing just about every day, or you're allowed to go home. So I want you to just check Google Classroom every day to see if I posted a video, or I posted some helpful hints, or some clues to what might make you a lot of money or not, because I'm going to reward people who do check Google Classroom every now and then. And maybe I have a posting that says, add $50 to your 500 when we start by doing this. And then if you do that, then I'll give you an extra $50 to start. Those sorts of things where you're kind of paying attention, you're participating, you're doing the certain things, you're jumping through the hoops that I'm asking for, and you'll earn yourself a little bit extra that way. So you just kind of need to check in with me, to communicate. Don't freak out. I get a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be terrible, I'm going to come in last place, blah, blah, blah. That may be so. You might somebody has to come in last place, all right? But as long as you're doing all the other stuff, being neat, being accurate, and doing what you need to do on a daily basis by participating, then you can get 75% of your grade to be an A, 25% could be a B minus, and it's still going to average out to a low A or a high A minus in the end if you do all of that I asked. So this is the last slide I wanted to get to. We're going to talk more about how the rules of IPO day and having to sell half your shares. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that next time. I don't know when next time is going to be. I thought it was going to be Monday, but apparently you juniors are going to be bubbling and doing some stuff on Monday. So if I see you Monday, great. If I don't see you Monday, check Google Classroom. I may have posted something asynchronously. That's it for today. Any questions? Turn in your proposals, please.
We should see you Monday. We'll have third, fourth, and 2 o'clock after we're done.
You will?
I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it's fourth and fifth.